Morning, friends. Today we're going to talk about fakery. Fakery and the result of it, and how it is an aspect of the ego, how it has contributed to the energy in the United States today, and essentially the destruction of what we have known as democracy. But first, I want to take up an issue that came up yesterday, and I'm going to play a little clip for you of what this MAGA woman says in response to a question from Adam Mockler. So I'll just play that little clip for you now.
Rather than passing the bill, or he told Republicans to shoot down. When it comes to January 6th, I know that we all hate the January 6th word, I'm sorry, but Donald Trump tried to send 7 fake slates of electors to key swing states, and Mike Pence said, I can't go along with this. So Donald Trump in that situation put himself above the Constitution and the democratic processes that have existed since the inception of America. Would you agree?
I don't believe that. I don't agree at all. I was there.
On January 6th.
I was there. Okay. So and I had a lot of friends there, and we were there because we firmly believe and still believe that election was stolen. Okay, as did Trump. Okay, so we believe, the government, they work for us.
Yeah.
We are the people. We employ them.
Now, this is part of the stupidity of the ego, that it thinks that it is the commander in chief and that therefore the president works for me. She says the president works for us, but obviously only the MAGA us that are with her that day. And the idea is that I am the center of the universe. Everything must work for me. So the president works for me, and I can just fire him if I don't like it, I guess. Or I can just ignore him, or I could say he's a rhino, or he just is, a Democrat, and therefore he doesn't count. Somehow he slipped into my business and doesn't work for me. And it doesn't work for me because I'm the center of the universe and everything has to bow down to me. This is the big ego, the little ego. This is what it says. So I thought I would take a little time and read to you something from the United States Constitution about the role of the President of the United States. And before I do, I want to correct that woman. Donald Trump does not work for you. You work for Donald Trump. You have worked to elect him. You have done everything he has asked you to do. You trust on him above the judges, the most learned people in this country, the most intelligent people in the country. You trust upon Donald Trump. You work for Donald Trump. And now he can fire you because he doesn't need you anymore. So let's go to the U.S. Constitution and let's look at what the role of the president is. This is from basically from the United States Constitution. And it says, before taking office, the president must swear or affirm to faithfully execute the office and to protect the Constitution. Now, some of this is paraphrased from the Constitution, but that is clearly in the Constitution. The president must swear, or affirm before God. You can say, all you Christians. He swears or affirms before God to faithfully execute the office and to protect the Constitution, not to violate it, to protect it. The president does not get to decide if he's going to follow the Constitution or not. According to the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the United States of America, it is the law that binds all Americans. It goes on to say, these are the roles of the president, the duties. The president is the commander in chief of the military. Okay, so if the president is the commander in chief of the military, does he work for you? Or do others work for the president? The president can grant pardons and reprieves. Well, we've certainly seen that. The very liberal reprieves for all of you who think that he works for you. The president can make treaties. The president can nominate and appoint judges, ambassadors, and other public ministers. The president can fill vacancies in the Senate. The president can convene Congress or parts of Congress on special occasions. The president can adjourn Congress if there is a disagreement over adjournment time. And I will say here, how can the president be removed? You get to say, Miss MAGA woman, I fire you, just like you fire, Governor Kemp because he's a rhino, or the governor of Pennsylvania because he's a Democrat. The president can be removed from office through impeachment and conviction. If you can get past the impediments put before your eyes by the ego and let go of stupidity and start using a little intelligence, you can see that impeachment is a process and it is outlined through the Constitution and laws under it that are created under it. And that must be tested against the Constitution. The United States Supreme Court has the authority to decide if something is constitutional, that is in alignment with the Constitution, permitted by the Constitution, or not permitted by the Constitution. And sometimes, depending on who's on that court, they whiffle waffle a bit. But that is the law of the land. And of course, if not elected after 4 years, then he will be removed from that office. That is the order. That is the Constitution. And so, if 4 years are up and Donald Trump refuses to relinquish his seat on the in the Oval Office to the next elected president, then he is in defiance of the United States Constitution. And you, Miss MAGA woman, who said that you are a constitutionalist, that you trust on the Constitution, you don't even know what's in the Constitution. I know that. I know that you, just listening to you, that you do not understand the United States Constitution. And maybe you should sit down, read it, and get somebody who is a little more educated than you to explain it to you. Now, the term in the U.S. Constitution in Article 2 says this exactly. The executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. He shall hold the office during the term of 4 years. Now, some of you may not know what executive power is. You may not know about the division of power in the United States Constitution between the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. This is a system of checks and balances. So the president of the United States does not control the purse. He does not have the right to decide how much money shall be appropriated for this purpose or that purpose. The current president of the United States probably has never read the Constitution himself. I'm guessing he never has. He just has, as we know, a very small vocabulary. He just says things, whatever will please the ego of his constituents. And his constituents are those who trust on a false reality. They trust on treason. They trust that they can destroy the processes and the processes set down by the United States Constitution because they feel like it, because the world works for them, because the president works for them and the government works for them. And if they say, bow down to me, then you have to bow down to the president, to you. But the president of the United States doesn't need you anymore. Donald Trump always knew he didn't work for you. He always knew that his job was to make you work for him. Now, the President of the United States represents this country. It is the face of this country. So when the President meets with foreign dignitaries, the President is showing to that dignitary the face of America because he represents America. And when we see something as horrible as the meeting between Donald Trump and Vice President Vance and others with President Zelensky from Ukraine, it makes true Americans who understand that the president represents the people of the United States cringe. The president of the United States does not represent you, MAGA woman. He does not represent you. He represents America. He represents the United States Constitution. He represents the American people and the best interests of the American people, not the best interest of you, not whether or not you have to pay taxes or not. He tricks you on that, of course. He has tricked you with his advisors, who are a little smarter than him, that he has threatened excessive tariffs on goods coming into the United States because that is a tax you pay, but you don't even know it. You don't know that it's like a sales tax. It's a little bit hidden from view, but it is a tax that you will pay. And you think if he lowers your income tax and then charges you double at the retail counter, that somehow you've won. This is because you are governed by fakery and stupidity. So today I'm going to turn this over to someone who came to me today to tell me what we're going to talk about today, and I will bow to someone who has a little bigger point of view than me. So you can listen to God talk to you as he talks to me. And I understand God has many faces. He is like, I'll tell you a little story right now. So you're driving down the road, and your child in the car is looking out the window, and he says to you, Mommy or Daddy, how come the moon follows us? And you have to stop and think about it. Why does the moon follow us? Are we special? Why is the moon following us? And you say, well, the moon seems to be following us, dear, because the moon is far away. If you're smart enough to figure this out, some people won't figure it out. But if you're smart enough to figure this out, you say because of the distance that the moon has from us. And therefore, over a large part of the USA or whatever country you're in, or the world, or whatever, people can see the moon. And it will look like the moon is following them. Because, in fact, the moon spreads, you might say, itself across a wide swath of the land, of Earth. And it looks like it follows them because wherever they go, there's the moon, there's the moon, there's the moon. So you might think of it like God. God follows everybody. And no matter where you go, there's God, there's God, there's God. But you can have a personal relationship with God just like you can have a personal relationship with the moon. This is just an example to try to help you get a picture of reality that perhaps can't be expressed in words. But we often use images. We often use fables. We often use mythology to try to explain to people something that cannot quite be grasped through the spoken word. But if you can get a moving image, we might say, like a little movie glimpse of something, like going to the Matrix or whatever, or the never ending story, and getting a glimpse of reality that cannot quite be expressed in words, but you can see it through the way it plays out. And that's the way it plays out. So listen to God and see what you think. Today, let's talk about the way that people play when they think that nobody is watching. They play differently when they think nobody is watching than they do when they're standing up stage. Because another aspect of the ego's hold on people is that they think they can get away with what they do if they are not visible to others, you see, and they ignore the fact that God is totally aware of everything they do. And so they commit the most egregious acts when they are out of view. And the prime example that came to you Yesterday was the man who would say things when he was disguising his identity that were very, very gruesome and caused his staff to resign from his reelection campaign because of the insane amount of publicity. If there hadn't been publicity, they would have continued to work for him because they would have said, well, as long as we can get you elected, as long as nobody finds out about it, it's okay. It's okay. We'll just conceal the evidence today. But when they couldn't conceal the evidence because the news outlets had gotten a hold of it and they were splashing it all over, and there was no way that they could contradict it, you see, because it was true. It was true. They could not fight the truth. And so they ran away from their posts, you see, because they were trusting on electing the most likable candidate to the Republicans, you see, because the Republicans like their candidates to be the ones who face the cameras and say, hey, I'm the best man today, and then hide their shame away. And if they can get away with saying, well, it's not true, it's not true, it's not true, then that's what they will do. But there was too much credibility to the words that were coming out of that man's mouth in private, you see, and there wasn't much they could do. This is God energy. This is God energy. You talk like God the Father. Yes, this is God energy that will cause others to see that they cannot escape their destiny by pretending to be holier than thou. Because the holy ones are the ones that are integrated, you see. They'll be the same in the public eye as they are in private, you see. So if you want to be a Republican today, then play in a way that will say, I am just a fake, you see. I'm a fake. I'm a big fake. And they will take that trust to the grave that they are a fake, and they stand before me and say, hey, I'm a fake today. I'm a fake today. And I will say, then you did forsake your trust on humanity because you trusted on being a fake version of reality. You are not a real human being to me because you had no consistency. And therefore, I'm going to have to strip you of your humanity. And you can go back to the beginning. You can go back to the beginning. What does it mean to go back to the beginning when you are talking to God? God says that when you go back to the beginning, you have to be the one who loses your entire identity. You no longer have an identity. To me or anyone you see, you will just be lost, you see. You will be lost in the white energy of God, you see. Now, Steph, you'll have to explain this to them because I don't think they understand about the white light. So I'll let you be the one that explains that to them. Okay, I will. People. So that was God who speaks to me, and usually he comes to me and he says, "This is God the Father," because God has a personal relationship with everyone, all of his children, all of the soul energy, the individual souls who are the old block, you might say. And he has a personal relationship with each of them, just like your father has a personal relationship with each of his children. But God is also the energy of the totality of everything. God is the white light. God is the inception of everything you see, everything you hear, etc. So let's go back to the beginning. So I'm going to show you the white light right now. And you tell me what you saw. And probably most of you who are being honest will say, I didn't see anything in there because all I saw was white and there's nothing there. Because you have to have the light in the dark in order to see anything. If you're sitting at in your room that's painted one color on all the walls, and you look at the corner, how do you know where the corner is? It's because of the shadows, of course, that you know that that's where the corner is. Because you look at the rest of the wall and there's no corner showing, there's no division. You see a division between the light and the darkness, which goes back to the biblical saying that God divided the light from the dark. Anyway, so the zero is something, if probably some of you, like me, intuited this a long, long time ago when you were just children. The zero is the symbol of everything and nothing. And so in the algebraic equation, everything has to fold back to zero. Both sides have to be equal. It has to be balanced. Boom. If it's not equal, your equation won't work out. If it's not working, there's something wrong if it didn't balance. So the energy always has to balance. And as I explain it, God is love. Love is not that mushy feeling you have for someone. You may suddenly have an expansion of an expansive feeling of love, of joy, of happiness. This is because you have connected to reality. It is like the door opened and the light shone through, and you see the light and you get that feeling. And sometimes you'll get that with another human being, and there are reasons for that. And you say, I'm in love with this person. Because when you're around that person, the door opens and the light comes through. And then I was an attorney. I did a lot of divorces. Eventually, most people will come and sit in my office and say, yeah, I don't love him anymore. I don't know where the love went, but it's gone. And I'm like, how can love disappear? But whatever, let's get it over with. And they'll say, yeah, I don't love him anymore, so I want to take him for all I can get. I'd rather pay an attorney than let him see a penny. Like, whoa, did you ever really understand love? Love is sharing. You have to let the energy flow because that's the way energy does go. It flows. And so if God is the white light, all that is, without any distinction, right? How does God experience itself? Well, it divides itself. Love divides itself into the lover and the beloved, each to the other. They just switch places, like the Mobius strip that goes around these two different poles. Sometimes it will be on the positive side, sometimes it will be on the negative side, so to speak. So you got these two poles, and you have essentially four options on each for the Mobius slip as far as how the energy is interacting. And so, I'll just tell you, every twin soul is like a Mobius strip with two pins. And so God cannot be perceived in its entirety. And so when you go back to the white light and you fold back to God, when you go home to God, you disappear into the white light. It's like that algebraic equation being folded back to zero. The story's over, but it can also begin again because God is in a continual process of dividing into the lover and the beloved, which is duality. The Trinity is you, God, and reality, your reality, what you see, what you hear through your physical senses. And even when you go to heaven, you still interpret through your memories of having been in the physical reality a story based on your memories of having been through this whole story. And you can come back through reincarnation and you can pick up a new story. You become a new person, but you will still have your history, your story, his story, her story. That's what it is. That's what history is. His story, her story. And so you still have your story. And it's just the next chapter. You can think of it, your soul energy, like a book, and it's just another chapter in it. And so I actually have always wondered that question. I've been asking it a lot lately and getting a lot of different perspectives on it. And so I hadn't heard God directly address it exactly this way. But essentially, what God is saying is your story's over. The book is done. The book is done because you couldn't grow. You didn't pass the test. Time's up. Your story is over. It didn't go anywhere because the ego consumed you. It didn't consume just your body, it consumed your soul. It consumed your soul because you lost your connection to me. You lost your connection to reality. Reality is what you see, what you hear, what you do. It is right now. If you're looking at me, this is reality. If you listen to the preceding recording of what God said to me and through me, you heard it. I don't care how you interpret it. How you interpret something is different from reality, the core reality. And then you create a story about it. And some of you will say, well, that couldn't be true. That couldn't be true because my mom told me that, she's probably talking to a demon. And so my pastor says, you can't listen to God directly. You have to listen to me. I'm the one that has God in a bottle here on the pulpit. And yeah, I know it looks empty, but we'll put a shield over it. We'll put a cover over it. And I'm telling you that I'm here with God in my bottle and I can speak for God, and He can't contradict me because I have God captured in my bottle. It's like capturing the wind in a bottle. And there are a bunch of people who buy that because of the ego, which is known by its symptom is stupidity. So they sit in their pew and they say, yeah, yeah, you'll tell us that, you speak for God. And we don't have to talk to God because we just listen to you. And God says, what do I do with these people? Because God talks to you individually. And you may think of it as intuition. You may feel it through your heart. When the door opens and you feel that love, because you have removed the impediment, or it has been removed from you for the moment, and you feel that love, you can say, cool, I feel God today. I feel love today. I look at you and I see that you are a face of God. God has many faces, many faces. So you and God interact in a way that creates your reality. God is the force of your reality. And you can create whatever picture you want. As I say, you can create a happy picture, a sad picture, whatever. Right now, the picture I see is a picture of the dying gas of the ego. Because what I see is that the ego has destroyed its host. And it has done that by destroying the habitat of the host so that the earth is in a self-destructive state. It will recover. It will recover its ability to support humanity. And it will do this because it needs to be there for those who have healed from the ego. They will be the evolution of humanity. They will be the new humanity. They will be the ones who have survived through generation after generation after generation of either being infected by the ego or having to try to survive among people who are infected by it and don't realize it. And so time is up. So what God's saying is your story's over. Your story is over. You know yourself as someone with a story. You say, well, I'm an American. Well, for me, I'm almost 75 years old. Well, I am white. Well, I have graying hair, blue eyes. Well, I live in such and such a place. So and so was my parents. I was born on this day in this place. I went to school. I'm educated. I'm not educated. Whatever it is, this is your story of who you are. And you're trained to think of yourself as a story. When you are in school, the teacher gives you an assignment in second grade or third grade, maybe third grade, and says to you, write down, I want you to tell me who you are. And all of a sudden, you have to define yourself in physical terms. You have to define yourself as I'm, you know, 4 feet tall. I have blonde hair. I have black hair. I have curly hair. You're defining yourself in terms of your body, which is what the ego wants. The ego wants you to see you as only a physical form. And in order to maintain that illusion that you are only a physical form, that you will live one life and you will either disappear, in which case nothing matters. You will disappear. You will not even ever have known that you existed. Or you will go sit up the right hand of God for eternity, where you'll suck your thumb and say, boy, I'm bored, boy, I'm bored. And that is the options that are available for most of humanity today. Those are the two options. So we offer you a third option, and it begins with critical thinking. It begins with intelligence. It begins with logic. It begins with opening your mind and not saying, oh, I can't accept that. That must be a demon, or that woman is mentally ill, or whatever. No matter how logical she sounds, she must be crazy because the world revolves around me. And I don't think that way. And the ego fears intelligence, and it certainly fears God. It fears anyone that has the audacity to speak to God directly or allow God to use their body to communicate with the rest of his children. This is to them, no, I can't do that because I'm stupid. I am infected with the virus of the ego, and my stupidity requires that I be a fake. And therefore, I will sit in church and I will accept what the pastor sitting up there tells me as if it were reality, as if it were true. I create this whole story in my head about how this is the way it has to be because the ego is being given to me. Pastor in front of your church, make no mistake, is training you to be consumed by the ego because the ego has consumed that pastor. Now, I'm not saying that everybody is like that. I'm not saying everybody sitting in a pew is going to buy what the pastor says. Some are going to say, hey, that bottle's empty. Believe what you say. Hey, I think I'm out of here. And some pastors really are pretty good at critical thinking. They just may have a little blockage here and there, like all of us. That's the fun part. Actually, it's the kind of the fun part once you start to look at your beliefs, to your blockages, to what is keeping you from experiencing life to the fullest. Intelligence is about experiencing life to the fullest, engaging with it, looking out your window and saying, I wonder why the tree is losing its leaves today. Maybe I better go out and pick them up and paste them back on. That's stupidity, right? You understand that. And yet, so many people live their life like that. I wonder why. Oh, I better put it back the way it's supposed to be. I'm the God of the universe. And tree, I say you got to wear those leaves. I don't want you to drop those leaves. So put those leaves back on. And just to make sure I show you how to do it, I'll come out there with my glue gun and glue them back up on your branches. So with that, we'll end for today. Please subscribe. There will be more information coming to you through this particular, I'll call it a channel, although that word is kind of strange to me, through this particular channel of information so that you can decide for yourself how you're going to interpret it. And if you choose critical thinking, then you will listen. If you choose tea, then you won't listen because you are the God of the universe. And if it doesn't agree with you, you just walk away and say, well, I'll just agree to disagree. And that's the way stupidity works. So see you next time.